picked Emeryville deliberately for today's walk because Mayor Bowders has been an inspiration to many of us, I think, in terms of that rare elected official who speaks really directly to issues of public space and social justice, who has access to the city, who has access to public space, and how issues of automobility and pedestrian and cycling kind of access are related to issues of housing, of racism, of patriarchy, of class division, and so on. So I'm really excited to get over to Emeryville and have a walk around on following the mayor's recommendations, no less. As I'm crossing the Bay Bridge, though, this first section, one thing that comes readily to mind is the lack of pedestrian and cycling access on this bridge. And I know that's a conversation in this city, and I know the other side of the next section of the bridge, which I'm about to emerge onto, does have the newer part has pedestrian and cycling access. But it does put me in mind of what might be a nice friendly competition between the Bay Bridge and the Verrazano Narrows Bridge in New York. You can see the pedestrian cycling access over here now. Because I know there's a conversation about that bridge too, and it would be interesting to see which one is going to be the first to dedicate one of its many car lanes to cycling and pedestrian access. But that's an aside. On to Emeryville. Okay, just got off the bus and making my way to the Emeryville Amtrak station where I'm going to begin. Now, the first observation is that, as you can see, this is a very car-centric kind of setup here, which is familiar to any of us who have ever been to a suburb in the United States or Canada. And what it tells me immediately is that for a city like Emeryville that wants to, you know, that has leadership that wants to change things, they have their work cut out for them. So that's an important context to, I guess, begin a walk through this city. Emeryville. Always good to start a walk in any town at the train station, which is, to my mind, the symbolic center of many cities. Yes, this looks like a fairly typical shopping plaza you might see in any number of cities, but the well-marked bike lanes and, importantly, well-marked pedestrian crosswalk here, making it feel pretty safe to cross, also makes it feel a little different. Pedestrian areas and pretty calm streets opening up onto this really nice park here. I believe this is Christie Park. Really give the area a sense of a place that's friendly and welcoming to pedestrians. Okay, it looks like I found the new pedestrian and cyclist bridge over here. Quite excited to have a look. But also significant that I'm here on Ohlone Way, which is of course a reminder that for non-Indigenous people like myself, visiting here, talking about public space in a society structured by settler colonialism means that the public realm is of course like private property, founded on and continues to exist on stolen land. So this is an important reminder that in the settler colonial context, all of these conversations take place under these conditions, and that connecting the issues of mobility and social justice also require a kind of land back politics if we're going to be serious about the social justice vision that thinking about public space and the cities and the city in the 21st century might entail. Okay, so let me get up here onto the bridge here. Wow, this looks pretty amazing. So when you're serious about creating access for everyone to move around your community, this is what it looks like. makes me think of a recent pedestrian and cyclist bridge that was built in Birmingham, where I live, over one of the canals. The design of which was to do everything to make it inconvenient for people trying to cross with a stroller, a wheelchair, a bicycle. Whereas this kind of, smooth flow design really speaks volumes about what's possible in so many places. Wow, this is really impressive. Heading along the Emeryville Greenway on the bicycle boulevard, just having exited the crossing there. And this bicycle boulevard is a nice idea. They might need some more protection than paint on the bike lanes here, but still, this seems like a pretty cycling friendly area. And it also crosses another cycling boulevard. Again, the significance of having a network of bike lane kind of access rather than just one route is really key, and that seems like a concept that's informing the layout here, which is great. And then straight into this pleasant little cut-through park here. This is a really nice walk. Cars need gasoline for fuel, but for pedestrians, empanadas. Thanks, Cafe Buenos Aires. Doyle Street Greenway, Bicycle Boulevard. Now this looks great. What a nice place to ride. And it just gets better. Look at this. Playgrounds. This is continuing on the Doyle Street bikeway. Bollards and a street just for cycling, skateboarding, jogging, whatever you like. A commons accessible to everyone in the community. Wow, this is really amazing. Wow, just look at this. I mean, there is some car access, people who have cars who live on this street. They would need to drive calmly and carefully though. And then there are other blocks like this one ahead, which is cycling and other, pedestrian, non-car kinds of access only. Wow, so many cities could use so much more of this. Just coming to the end of the bikeway on the road there and back into a pedestrian shared path in yet another lovely park. And again, the continuous access with so little interruption for safe pedestrian passage is really key to all of this. And here's one of my very favorite features. Watch this car approaching the crosswalk. Very well signed. The driver comes to almost a complete stop and then proceeds. I mean, that probably took 2 seconds out of that driver's day to make sure to cross here safely. And now pedestrians can cross in confidence. Again, we have bike lanes connecting here as well, the network principle in operation. But from a pedestrian point of view, I mean, this is something in the UK, back in Birmingham where I live, where we can't even get them to put something like this in car crossings on university campuses where thousands of students are crossing the road every day. So this is a real model of what's absolutely possible, and it's not some elaborate setup. It's just a basic sort of mechanism to enable car drivers to interact safely with everyone else. Wow. This counter doesn't seem to be on at the moment, but certainly count me as an enthusiastic visitor this year. Now exiting Emeryville and entering Berkeley, and it's just looks like kind of an interesting symbolic divide up here, because this really pleasant walking and cycling path that I've been on is coming to an end. And looking ahead, I believe this is the 9th Street bikeway, perhaps. I mean, I see some bike lanes to an extent, but it looks like as I exit Emeryville and enter Berkeley that I'm returning to the much more typical, basically all of the space is reserved for cars, as opposed to what I've been seeing so far. So an interesting contrast. Okay, so again, the contrast in Berkeley really is continuing. Here's one of those, they draw a picture of a bike on a road for cars, which to me is kind of just another way of saying we can't really be bothered changing anything to make it accessible for people who are not in cars. Again, in great contrast to what I just saw walking through Emeryville. So this is more like the kind of familiar sort of approach that we see in the UK here as well. So I'm going to loop around a bit through Berkeley and then re-enter Emeryville along the waterfront once I get over there next. Just noticing some more of the contrast here as I walk through Berkeley. Drive like your kids live here sign, a kind of roundabout with some various signs. Looks like they've been knocked about by cars, and this is the 9th Street Bikeway. So again, we have a picture of a bicycle on, I mean, just look at the width of this road, on this very wide road that's reserved for car traffic. And so it just, again, it speaks to the significance of infrastructural solutions. The sign, here's another one, slow down, watch for children. I mean, that's fine. I don't think anybody would disagree. No reasonable person would disagree with that. But it leaves it to the whim of the drivers. And some of them are in a hurry. Some of them, you know, some drivers are really cautious, others are not. But the point is that it then leaves it to the discretion of those individuals rather than infrastructural kinds of solutions. That's what we need. Something that will render it impossible for drivers to drive as though their kids don't live here. And again, Emeryville, just in contrast to what I'm seeing here in Berkeley, seems like a real example of what that might look like in action. Still in Berkeley, and just crossing over the freeway, the I-80 here. And freeways, as we know, as everyone knows, are, you know, a kind of infrastructure that facilitate fast movement for some and create big barriers for others. And there's an interspecies kind of dimension to the conversation around public space and access that I think gets left out too often, and we can imagine the ways in which this prevents non-human animals from accessing the water from over here. But in any case, Berkeley has put in this bridge for pedestrians and cyclists to get over the freeway, which is good to see. As you know, I mean, a bare minimum to let people get across, but it's a nice design again, and looks like it would be kind of fun to ride across. So this is a nice sort of way to get over this big barrier here of the freeway. Emeryville is just down there, and I'll be heading back towards it along the water. Back to Emeryville. So I'm entering Emeryville from the north here. I've been enjoying this walk along the waterfront of Berkeley from the Pedestrian Bridge that I crossed earlier. And now I'm going to walk along out to the, continuing along the waterfront, I believe I can do that, out to the Emeryville Marina. Okay, here at Point Emery, and again, I'm just entering Emeryville here. The sign that signals Emeryville is just behind me there. But I just wanted to notice another contrast. It's interesting because there was such a major infrastructural contrast as I left Emeryville going into Berkeley, exiting north, and now going south back into Emeryville. It's just very interesting on this pedestrian and bikeway. As I was walking along the Berkeley section, I was noticing that the concrete is in kind of rough shape in a few places. And as you enter here on the Emeryville side, it just the quality just really yeah, of course. the quality just really improves here, and it's all the more smoother and inviting. So just another interesting point to note. A little noisy with everything behind me, but this is a really lovely spot along here. Kind of small beach access and some walkways as I head from Shorebird Park out along towards the Marina. A humble bench. It's actually really important because if you want pedestrian access to be accessible for all the more people, you want people to be able to have opportunities to have a break and sit down so that they can make their way in comfort and feel like they can make the journey. Another really nice aspect here as I continue along towards the Marina, so there's all this housing here, but yet there's still access. The waterfront is not only for the people who live here. Welcome to Watergate, it says. Nice name. This is not the Watergate of Washington, D.C., of course. But what's really nice is that they've maintained the priority that everybody can make their way along and enjoy this waterfront, rather than putting housing along the water is sometimes a moment at which waterfront access gets privatized, and that's not the case here, which is really nice to see. Okay, it looks like pedestrian access to the shoreline ends at this point. Maybe I'll take a walk through the parking lots and see if I can find another way. I was able to find my way out and rejoin the sidewalk to keep going out towards the Marina. Unfortunately though, I see the bike lane ends here, which is less than ideal. So this looks like maybe an area that they're working on, certainly an area that looks like it needs some work in order to improve the access all the way out to the end point. Okay, so I've made my way out to the end point of the Marina. It's just beautiful out here, as I kind of expected, and just starting to I guess this is the farthest out point of the walk, as I now start to head back in towards central Emeryville. So a couple of things I'll say just as I wind my way around here, and one is just looking out, again, this view, looking out at the Golden Gate Bridge and downtown San Francisco and the New Bay Bridge, but also Alcatraz out there as well, and thinking about my location at the moment, kind of in between Alcatraz on the one side, and on my other side, Oakland, and thinking of these as two essential sites of resistance, of struggle, and of generation of knowledge for how to think about some of the questions that I've sort of been motivated to think through on this walk. And of course what I'm thinking about there is the indigenous occupation of Alcatraz at the end of the 1960s into the early 1970s, 69 to the beginning of 71, and of course in Oakland the Black Panther Party. And what do they have to do with these contemporary questions of public space? Everything, because this is a question of power, thinking about who has access to the city, and these are two of the most kind of profound sites of thinking about power in a society like this one, a society structured in racial, class, gender dominance, and built on stolen land. So I think these are all of the kinds of political questions that we need to keep in mind when we're thinking through these questions about public space, access, pedestrian, access to public space, and bicycles and cars and all the rest of it. Because there's a technical side to these questions, and those wonderful parks and bike lanes that I walk through in central Emeryville require technical expertise. to design the layout and to redesign the road space and to reallocate road space away from only cars and making it something more democratic that can be shared with more other people and other forms of movement. But we also need a kind of, you know, historical and humanities kind of knowledge to be able to think through these questions as well, in terms of rethinking and challenging this idea that only people who are able or who want to purchase an automobile should have safe access of mobility through their city. So in short, what a humanities kind of knowledge brings to this conversation is to think about the questions of power that really lie at the heart of a lot of this stuff. The other thing I'm thinking as I'm out here in this, just again, absolutely beautiful setting, is thinking back to Birmingham where I live and thinking about the people there who are doing such important work to try to rethink how the city is organized, who the city is for, and how we're going to change the city together to make something more democratic and more accessible and more green as the climate crisis, of course, looms over everything. And I'm thinking of people like Liz Clements, of people like Zoya Ahmed, you know, my friends Nathan Carden and Riddhi Kalaria, and Shivaji Shiva and Adam Tranter. There's, you know, no shortage of people in Birmingham who are doing this work as well. And I'm inspired by them and thinking about their, you know, what they bring to this conversation, and then putting that into dialogue with the kind of, you know, really inspiring rethinking of what a city can look like that I'm seeing here in Emeryville. And of course, I'm visiting Emeryville as a tourist. I don't know the intricacies. Not only do I not know the intricacies, I don't know anything about the specific kind of political questions and politics in this town in particular. I, like many others, have been inspired by the mayor here, John Bowder's kind of work on this and the way that he speaks about it. And I've just been really delighted to come out here and have a look at what they're doing. And again, to bring some of that, hopefully bring some of the perspectives from what's happening in Emeryville back to Birmingham. So yet again, just wonderful to be here. And with that, I'm back at the Emeryville Amtrak station where I began, only to notice that there's all the more cycling infrastructure and bike lanes here, which is so nice to see when you first arrive in a city and you come out of the train station, to immediately see some of the priorities that Emeryville is exemplifying here. Great to see. Maybe that'll be more for me to explore the next time I come to Emeryville, which I'm already looking forward to. This was a real inspiration to be here. And thanks again, Mayor Bowders, for the recommendations on where to walk. I really enjoyed it. Bye.